Playing on Hope FM, listen and live. Thank you so much for choosing to be with us on 101.9 down at the coast on this beautiful 4th of November 2022 at 24 minutes past 11 o'clock. My name is Sharon Aitore. It is time for Profile. Real stories, real change, real people, real God. That is what it is all about every Friday. 20933 is our SMS line, 0717 400 555 our WhatsApp number, and of course you can find us online at Hope FM Live. So now, today we are privileged and blessed to have a guest with us in studio, and what comes to my mind when I think about Joy, Deborah, is resilience. You know, when you refuse to give up, life throws everything at you, but you say, no, I am not going down. And because she has a great story and she's a good storyteller, let me not tell her story. Let me first of all let her introduce herself, and then we will get into the details of the story. Good morning, Joy.
Good morning to you, Sharon.
Good to have you.
Good to have you too.
How have you been?
Very well, I thank God.
Amen.
I'm breathing. Just
Amen.
the fact that I'm breathing is a miracle on itself.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Okay, please introduce yourself.
My name is Deborah Joy Juma. I'm 27 years old. I know ladies don't like to mention their years, but I'm 27 years old and I'm born again. I'm so passionate about the ministries that God has put in me, just to reach out to people and to encourage people and to live for Christ. And I'm also an author. I've written a book called When Life Hurts. I'm an inspirational speaker, and I'm a high school teacher.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah. I know that is not all. Unasema that's all, but that is not all. We will get to know a little bit more as we go on with the story.
Yeah.
You said your ladies don't like talking about their age.
Yes.
And you're very bold about saying 27.
Yes. Yeah.
Why?
You know, there was a time I used to think that I would never hit 30. I think I told some of my friends, and maybe you are one of the friends I told. Yeah, I used to say that maybe I won't hit 30. So every year to me counts. Every year, if I have a birthday, 26, 27, 28, it's a blessing. So for me, I can never shy of telling my age. Yes, I'm 27.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the story. And we start from growing up. Where does this story of yours begin?
Growing up, my story begins when my parents gave birth to me at a very early age. My dad was 21, my mom was 19, and they had born also my sister by that time. So I have a sister who is a year older than me. She was born when mom was 18, definitely. My parents were pretty young. They were a young couple, so they couldn't take care of us at that time. So what happened, they had to take us to my grandmother so that my grandparents would take care of us as they continue with their studies. But my dad didn't perform well in high school, so he didn't get a chance to go to college. My mom got a chance to go to TTC, Teachers Training Institute. So she went to TTC, and then we stayed with my grandmother. We stayed with her for a while, and then at the age of 5, around 5, 6 is when mom came for us. And when mom came for us, she had not really completed her studies, so she came and picked us and took us to our dad. And we were meeting our dad now for the first time at that time. But this
Dad never used to come visit.
No. He never visited us. So my mom comes from a very staunch Muslim background, and my dad was a Christian. He used to go to Salvation Army. So the two of them, actually, even marrying was a very big deal. It wasn't a walk in the park for them. So now when mom came for us, we went and we had to live with our dad for a few years, around 2 years before mom graduated from her course. And meeting my dad, I don't know, but I have never witnessed of a very harsh dad like the dad that I had. My dad was the harshest man ever on this earth, because he used to beat us so much. I used to wonder, this is a stranger, basically we are meeting for the first time, but he is very abusive. He used to beat us, he used to scold us, he used to assault us physically. Like, he was just a very, very harsh person generally. So, but we had to live with it until mom came. So when mom came into the picture, she could not also defend us because she was
just
beaten
a minute,
too.
Joy. So you're living with your dad
Yes,
only, like
Yes.
your mom had gone back to
to
school.
school. So it's my sister, my dad, and I,
Okay.
the three of us.
So dad is the one cooking for you. Dad is the one.
Yes, he's the one doing everything, but very abusive,
Okay.
physically abusive.
All right.
Yeah.
And at that time, I'm just trying to think. Maybe you didn't understand what was going on.
No, and I didn't even have any feelings. I didn't even know these are parents. I couldn't tell that this is mom, this is dad. I couldn't.
Okay.
I knew my grandmother more, so I couldn't tell that these are parents.
Okay.
Yeah. So now when my mom came back, she had finished her course and she was looking for a job. My dad decided to come to Nairobi, and he came to Nairobi as a guard. And when he came, he never used to communicate with my mother. But I know also that at that time there were not many people had cell phones, so they never used to communicate. He would come once in a while, and he would come for just a day and go back. And in the day that he came, he beat us. You know, he even just spending an hour with him, he would beat you for very, very simple mistakes. Like, let me give an example. There was a time I was singing. I was just sweeping the floor as I sang, and then he came and beat me for singing out of tune. You know, like, he would just look for mistakes to beat you. So at grade 2, he told my mom that we can come to Nairobi too, and we came. I used to hear my mom crying at night every day, but I didn't know it was domestic violence. Later on is when I understood that they used to fight. So my mom would cry and cry and cry every night. And in the morning, we go to this school. We used to move to schools. Like in primary school, I went to 12 different schools.
Wow.
12, because these guys would fight, and then we have to move to another school, we have to move to another place, you know. So when when we came to Nairobi, life was not very easy because dad was just a guard and mom had no work. So mom got a job with private institutions, and then that is where we schooled for a short period, and then later they disagreed and we had to go back to the village without my dad. So we left our dad in Nairobi, and we went to Kitale, where our parents' home was. So we stayed in Kitale. Dad never came. He came when we were in grade 5. And at grade 5, we had really struggled. We had gone to school without shoes. We had gone to public schools. We had really struggled with our mother. So when he came into picture in 2005, I was in grade 5. He came. He had been sacked from work, and apparently my mom had gotten a job with the government now, with Teacher Service Commission. But my mom had gotten a job in Bungoma, yet my dad is in Kitale. So we had to live with my dad in Kitale. Then my mom goes to Bungoma. This time my mom had given birth to another child, my little brother. He is 6 years younger than me. So now mom went with my brother to where she was posted, and we lived with our dad.
Okay. So who's making these decisions? Is it just mom and dad?
I don't
deciding?
know. I can't tell. For us, we didn't have any rapport. Even up to now, I don't have any relationship with my father or with my mother. So we were just there. When we are told you are going to this new school, it's okay, we go. When we are told mom is going to Bungoma, you're going to stay here with your dad, we stay. We didn't question, and we have never questioned our parents up to now. So now we stayed with our dad, and the harshness increased. My dad used to kick me, for example, and I somersault in the air. I fall to the other side. I start nose bleeding, and he hits me again. He tells me he will hit me until the bleeding stops. But that it didn't make it stop. So sometimes he would just hold my head, and then hold my head and hold his head and hit me so hard with his forehead and tell me that you will make my head go mad. And I used to wonder what is wrong with him. And now, something that is very strange that I want to mention is that my dad was a pastor in church.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, let me ask you, Joy. So when all this is happening, by the time you're in grade 5, you're possibly 10, 11 years thereabout, and your sister is a year older than you. Are you? Did you ever think maybe we need to go back to grandma? How can we go back to grandma?
Actually, there's a day we wanted to go and report to these people who protect children, because there was a day my dad used the paper bag. I don't know whether you remember the black paper bags that were burned. He tied the paper bags around our fingers and burnt them. And that day we had just eaten extra food because he served us little food, and then now we decided to add ourselves a little food when he was not there, and he came and burnt our hands with that paper bag. So we thought about going to report. We thought about going to grandma. We don't know. We cannot go to grandma because we are living in Kitale and my grandma is in Bungoma. Where do we get the fare? Who do we ask for the fare? My relatives, most of my relatives from my mother's side are Muslims. They hated my dad because he was a Christian. So there was no rapport, no relationship, nothing.
What about the relatives of dad?
Now, my dad came from his home when he was very bitter.
Okay.
He lost his mom, and the mom died by poison. They are different. They had co-wives. His dad had co-wives, and the mom died out of poisoning. So he was very bitter. He never wanted to introduce us to his people. Actually, I don't even know most of my father's relatives. I don't know my paternal relatives, most of them. I just know a few of my maternal relatives. So we couldn't go to my father's side, to my grandfather, for example. Yeah, I didn't even get to meet my grandmother. And my grandfather came into picture, I think in 1999. I was very young, so I didn't even interact with him, and he died at that time. Yeah.
Okay, please continue the story.
Yeah, so now we stayed with dad, and he used to beat us. And especially me. One of my weakness was wetting the bed. I used to wet my bed every day. So my dad would wake up and pinch me like for an hour. Just pinching me and telling me that I am too old. I'm too old to be wetting my bed. And I just was there. I didn't have any emotions. I didn't like him, but I couldn't say, I couldn't tell. I remember there was a time when my mom closed school, because now my mom used to come after she had closed schools, after schools were closed. So when my mom came home, she would just, she would also be beaten. So when dad beats you, you cannot complain to mom because she's beaten too. And sometimes when my mom is beaten and you're crying, and when you are being beaten and you're crying, calling mom, the way children cry, calling their mothers, my mom will beat you. Why? Because my dad will tell her that you are the one who is messing up with the children, and that is why they are crying and calling your name, So you just find a way of crying not to involve mom in. Just look for a way and say, ooh, wow, whatever, but don't cry calling mom. So at the age of 12, we were in grade 7. There's this lady, a neighbor to our family, who came after my mom had closed school, and she came to our house, and she asked my mom, "You were unable to kill your children, so you left them for their dad to kill them." And my mom asked, "Kwani, what happens?" And that woman told my mom, "The way your children are beaten, one day you'll come and find them dead." And at this time, my dad is a senior pastor in church. So this all time, he would beat us at home. He would beat my mother. They would fight and fight and fight. And he would still go and preach and tell people, come out of captivity. I remember his last sermon was breaking from captivity. And I would even wish I can just raise my hand in church and say, you are the one who is in captivity. You are a captive. But I couldn't do that.
So would he make you go with him to church? Did you have an option of not going to church?
No. We must go to church, and we must act cool.
Okay.
We must act like there is nothing that goes on at home. Okay. We must show the world that many people admired my family, you know, a pastor's family. And my dad was the best dad in the world, like for the world.
Right.
For us, he was a harsh man, but to the world, he was the best. You couldn't even convince anyone that my dad was abusive. Nobody would believe it. But he used to abuse us. He used to beat us. He used to threaten us. He used to scold us and such things.
When you say your mom was told by a neighbor, was there a moment when the neighbors tried to intervene, or they would just watch from a distance?
They would just watch from a distance. Now, we used to go and fetch water from a certain family, not very far from our place. So when we went to fetch water is when people would ask us, why do you guys always cry every day? Kwani, what mistakes do you do every day that you are beaten? But nobody intervened because somehow people respected my dad and they feared him. And sometimes also when my dad was beating us, he would tell us not to cry. So you don't make noise, like you don't cry out loud.
Yeah.
You just cry in like you don't have to cry, in short. Yeah. So now when my mom heard that we would be killed, she opted to go with us to Bungoma. And so we left home. We went to Bungoma in class 8. We went with her and we started living with her. We still didn't have any rapport, any relationship. We just knew she was our mother, but we don't have stories. We don't have moments of mother-daughter or anything. We were just there. We were just existing and living with her because she's our mother. Then when we joined Form 1, they now fought really bad until one night my mom hired goons to kill my dad. And these goons found my dad. They cut his head. They cut his head from the middle to the back of his head. They cut it. And my dad bled so badly. He went to hospital and had a bandage and everything.
How did you guys know that it was mom who did this?
We had on phone call.
Oh.
She made a call.
Okay.
And I, even up to now, we have never told our dad, and we have never told people, but we had, all the three of us had. My mom asked, hello, where are you? And somebody responded, and then he said, can you see him?
Okay.
And then people responded, and then he said, mshtue but msiue.
Okay.
You know, that means you can just try, harm him, but don't kill him. So we know very well that she is the cause of that. Okay. So when dad came, he had a bandage, he was wounded. The following morning, he didn't go to sleep with my mom. And in my mom's bedroom, they had 2 beds. Everybody was using their bed, like they didn't share a bed. And they were still pastors, remember. They were still telling people about the love of Christ and everything. So in the morning, my dad wakes up and says, I don't want you to wash my clothes. Just let my clothes be, the clothes that had blood on. And my mom became abusive. She told him that I wasn't with you and you're going out there and whatever. Then my dad was like, I have been wounded and you're talking like that. They started fighting. You know what my mom did? She just pulled out the bandage. Yeah, and my dad cried like a baby. He felt so much pain, and at that point, those people could not live together. You know, there's even a time when my mom wanted to kill all of us in the family. She said we are going to die, the 5 of us. So she wanted to poison us with food. And at some time, and at those times, I remember when your stomach rumbled, you would ask your sibling, is it today? Is it today? Are we dying today? Is it, how are you feeling? Are you feeling the pain? You know, we were afraid. So we knew these people might kill each other. So when we went to high school, I went to Form 1. My sister also went to Form 1. We have gone to school at the same time until Form 4, the same class. But high school, we went to different schools. So in high school, one of the teachers called Sarah calls me and tells me, you're not going to go home. You're not going to go to Kitale. You'll go to Bungoma where your mom lives. And I said, it's okay. I packed my stuff and I went there. When I got to my mom's place, I found everything there. I found my clothes that belonged to Kitale there, my shoes, my everything, and I never questioned anything. Because remember, we don't question. And up to now, I have never questioned. And that is how my dad got out of the picture.
Okay.
I have never heard about him again. This is the 13th year. I don't know where he went to, but rumors have it that he remarried.
Okay.
He remarried and he has other children. It's just rumors.
All
I
right.
don't know. Yeah, but my that is where my dad disappeared now from my life. So in Form 2, I started having weird characters. Now I know that I was depressed, but by then I didn't know I was depressed. I would go outside during break time and I just lie on the ground. Then I wake up. It's two lessons past break. It's when I'm going to class.
So you lie and sleep, or lie and just...
I forget. I forget that I'm supposed to go to class.
Okay.
And then now, at this point, nobody was visiting me. I'm in Form 2, nobody was visiting me. I didn't have money. I didn't have basic needs. So I told my friends that I'm an orphan. I told everyone in school. Everyone knew that I'm an orphan. But I wasn't an orphan. Of course, I had parents. And by this time, my parents have separated. Everybody's living on their own. My dad has disowned the church. He left ministry completely. So everyone knew that I was an orphan. And sometimes when people were visited, they would give me 1, 2, 3 things that they have been brought. Until one time, when one teacher called Mr. Onyango went for marking, KCSE marking, and he met my uncle. He's called Uncle Salim. And then they were talking, and then he told Uncle Salim, do you know that my niece is in your school? How is she doing? And then Uncle Salim is, Mr. Onyango is like, a niece? Who? Deborah, how is she? Her mom is in this place, and the dad, and then Mr. Onyango is like, Deborah is not an orphan, and then that story came to school, Sharon, and everybody knew that I lied. I'm not an orphan, and everybody was calling me a liar, and I almost even committed suicide. I wanted to run away from school because how could I now convince people that it is true I am not an orphan? It's because of 1, 2, 3 things that I decided to say I'm an orphan. Either way, Mr. Onyango settled that matter, and Mr. Onyango decided to be my surrogate father. Then Madam Sarah, the one who also got the information, decided to be my surrogate mother. So I had parents in school. They would check on me. They would help me. And the depression continued. I continued being just in my own world.
And as you're being in your own world, seemingly depressed, now you know you were depressed.
Yes.
Is there anyone noticing the behavior, the change of behavior?
Yes, like Mr. Onyango would tell me, today you are just looking down the whole lesson. What is wrong? And I would say nothing. I couldn't talk. I couldn't say what was going on. But people, my teachers knew there was something. Now, another thing that
was done past that.
Nothing was done. Nothing was done. There's this time now when Madam Sarah became my surrogate mother, I was following her everywhere. Imagine a Form 3 following a woman everywhere. Like I'm just following her. I think I felt solace. I felt this is a safe person that now identifies with me. I would follow her 24/7 until time that it's time for her to go home. I'm still following her until sometime my class teacher became mad because he felt I was wasting a lot of time following up Madam Sarah and it wasn't right and such things. But then miraculously I finished. No, there's something I need to say. The faith that I saw my dad doing, I know my dad was lying, quote unquote. But when the Bible says that train up a child in the ways of the Lord and they shall not depart even when they are old, I think that stuck in me because all these things were happening, but I still loved God. And people used to call me pastor in school because I used to pray for people. I used to talk to people and tell them that they are good people. The way you become kind and whatever.
Yeah.
So people used to call me pastor, and Mr. Onyango is the one who began the name pastor, and it stuck. Up to now, people call me pastor because I used to pray. I had a book. I still have that book. I used to pass it around the class and tell people, write your prayer requests. I have it. And then I would go. I cannot even pray. I just look at it and I say, now God, this is Stella Songwa. she wants to get an A, and she wants to do medicine, and then you have heard that I got on. This is called Faith na my God. That is what I used to do, you know.
And were you praying for yourself? Did you ever pray for yourself?
I used to pray the grace. I used to pray the grace every now and then, and the Lord's Prayer. I used to pray the Lord's Prayer. Yeah. I pray the Lord's Prayer, and then I pray, may the grace of the That's how it was.
Okay.
So miraculously, I got a B+. And I was called to join KU. So I joined KU. I was so happy that now I'm leaving the village and I'm going to KU. When I went to KU,
but let me ask Joy, who is taking care of your education up to that level?
My mom was trying, although I used to be sent home frequently, but she was trying. And I was also working. I used to sell sweet potatoes so that I make money for school. So during holidays, I would sell sweet potatoes, and then mom would top up something and I would go to school. So now when I got a letter to join campus, I didn't know that in campus you have to pay it before you eat. I didn't know that when you go to the mess, you need a receipt for you to eat. I was just happy and bubbly and like, I'm going to KU. I'm happy. I'm leaving the village now and everything. And I didn't know. So I get to campus. I applied for help. I paid my fees. So fees cleared. Nothing for food left. And then I go to the mess and I'm told the only thing you can get is what we call bursary soup. Bursary soup is after you have bought food, they serve you the food and then they give you a spoon of soup. Okay. So the only thing they can give me is bursary soup if I don't have money. And I survived on bursary soup for some time. So I decided I will work as a nanny.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So you're surviving on
bursary soup. Yes.
You say for some time. What do you mean? That would be the only meal you would take in a day?
Yes. And then I would take a lot of hot water and sometimes when I had money like 50 bob or 100 bob, I would eat that 50 bob in a week. I buy, I don't know how they are called in English, but I know in Kiswahili they are called kangumu. I used to buy kangumu. I buy one today, I take in the morning, and then I take water the whole day. I wait for tomorrow, I buy another one, I take like that. And then I realized that I can write. I started writing random things, just writing like poems to encourage myself. Then I told myself, why can't I go with these poems to the CU and start reciting poems every Sunday? And the CU gave me that opportunity. So every Sunday I would recite a poem to encourage people. Every Sunday I would, and they ended up calling me Daughter of Jesus. That's why on Facebook I call myself Daughter of Jesus, because they used to call me Daughter of Jesus. I wrote poems every time. Swahili poems, English poems, and there's a time I wrote a spoken word and I went to perform it in a competition. Then I was the best solo performer. So I told myself, so I can do some writing too. So
now, this writings you're writing to encourage people, are they encouraging you?
No, they're not encouraging me. I'm just writing to encourage people. Okay, to make money and to pass time and to just grow. And I would read even the Bible, but not to read I would just read, not for me, just read, because I never missed prayer requests. People used to see me as a very saved girl, you know. Now there was a time now the depression became very bad that I started just walking at night. I would find myself, it's 2 a.m. I'm in the middle of the market. I don't have shoes, I'm in my pajamas. I don't know how I got there. Then sometimes there was a mountain. There was a place where the CU used to go to pray. So I would walk and go there. So when people saw me there, they would be like, hey, this girl likes fasting and praying. But I just found myself there. I didn't have feelings. I was just like that. So now, this one friend, my roommate actually, told me, you behave weirdly. I think you need to go to the health unit. Because I told her I have a headache. And she said, apart from the headache, you behave very funnily. You leave the room, the way you do things. Then I was crying a lot. So she told me, we go to the health unit. And at the health unit, they said I have depression. So they referred me to the county hospital, Kitui County Hospital. That's where I started psychotropic medication. They said I had post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay. So I started medication. By that time, I'm now in 4th year. All this time, I had worked for people on the farms. I had worked as a nanny, and even working as a nanny was very hard because sometimes, I'm depressed. I would cook food sometimes with liquid soap. I think that is the cooking oil. Confusion. I'm not there. I'm not present, So, and then these people will say I'm a witch. I wanted to kill them. They scold me. They send me away. So, I finished my 4th year.
So when you're doing this, did you you're doing this during holidays or when? The
No, during school time. I can literally count the lectures I attended in school. They used to call me principal. There's one lecturer called Mr. Kamau. I don't know whether he is listening. Mr. Kamau used to call me, he's Dr. Kamau. He used to call me principal. In high schools, principals just appear and disappear from school. So I would appear during the cut and disappear. Then I would come during the exam again. So he used to call me principal. So, and then that name also stuck. He would call me principal that I don't attend classes. But after I finished school, a miracle again. I got a 2nd class upper division. I don't know how that happened. God knows how it happened.
How was your relationship between you and your mom back at home? Were you going home over holidays?
Once in a while I would go home, but sometimes I would go to my grandmother's place. We didn't have a relationship. Okay. We didn't have things to talk about. We were just existing as family members. And my mom had a single room, so most of the time I would go to my grandmother's place.
Okay.
Yeah. So I graduated with my 2nd class upper division, and then I'm on psychotropic medication, and I don't know how I will go home and explain that I'm on medication. So I went home, I looked for a job. I was just not myself, but I had to work. In fact, the school that I went to, I had to teach subjects that I haven't studied for. I studied for Kiswahili and religious studies, but they gave me agriculture, chemistry form 1, I don't know, history. So I had to read a lot, and I just say it's a miracle that I was able to sustain myself in that school and teach. And it wasn't noticeable because I'm normally a very outgoing person. So it's not easy for you to notice. I will come back to my house at night, and that's when it hits me that I am having this and this problem to deal with. But during the day, I'm out and about, and I'm just laughing and bubbly, and people know that maybe nothing is wrong with me. So then I chose to come to Nairobi in 2018.
You chose to come back for greener pastures?
Greener pastures, yes,
okay.
For greener pastures.
Okay.
And I came to Nairobi. Before I had graduated, I had ran away from home, and now my family are Muslims and I'm a Christian. So sometimes it just doesn't sit well with us. So I had run away and gone to a street children project, Molo Street Children Project. So at Molo Street Children Project is where I volunteered for 3 months, and they're the ones who paid for my graduation fee and everything after I had finished, because they loved me and they loved my services. So yeah, I finished. I graduated, I came to Nairobi, and then there's a friend I had made at Molo Street Children Project called Naomi. She lived at Kasarani. So she told me, you can come and live with me, but she didn't have money. So yeah, I went and started living with Naomi. We struggled because she didn't have a job. She was working online. I struggled with her, but we lived together until one time there's a group on Facebook called What to Do Before and After You Say I Do. I didn't want to get married, but I wanted to know what those people say in that group. So in that group, there's a lady called Nungari. I inboxed her and told her, I'm going through 1, 2, 3 things. I want you to post in the group and ask people, what can I do? By that time, I was very suicidal. Nungari told me I cannot post that on a group. I'll connect you to a lady. And she connected me to a lady, Grace Kariuki. And Grace Kariuki came up to where I was in Kasarani. She came, she sat with me. I told her my story. We cried together. She prayed with me, and then now she left. And she told me, I'll be visiting you and we will be talking. I want to do therapy with you. So we started doing therapy with her. But at that time, still, I wasn't on medication. I was not working. I was just staying in the house. Then I got a job in Kitengela. I stayed there for I think a month and I left. And then after I left, I came back to Grace Kariuki's house because she invited me and she accepted me. She told me, sometimes I think about the kindness that this lady did to me, and I'm just moved to tears because she called me, she accommodated me, and she told me, you're going to be my daughter. I will take care of you until when you are ready to move out and to live on your own. And I used to have sensations. I used to be very suicidal. There's a time she actually found me trying to hang up myself. And there are times she found me with a knife wanting to slit my throat at night, sleeping with it in my pocket. Like, there have been those low moments. But all this time, myself too, I was serving in church. And I was very active in church, but I was going through crap. I used to serve, I used to go to church, I used to help. Whenever they say there's something they need youths to come and do, I would go and I would help. So people also in church knew this is a very committed Christian girl, but I was going through so much. Okay. So I stayed with Grace Kariuki. And up to now, actually, we stay together. Up to now, we stay together. And then I got a job with the Ministry of ICT. I went there, and Grace Kariuki introduced me to psychiatry. So now we started, she told me she'll be paying for consultation and of course sometimes she pays for medication also. She pays for that. We go to hospital. And then there's a time I was admitted for nearly a month. It was not long ago. So when I was admitted, that is the time I started writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just hold it right there.
Okay.
Our time is very much well spent. Thank you, Joy, for taking us through your story. I know there's quite a bit more that is yet to come. But before we get to that, we need to take the news at 12 o'clock with Tess Njenga, and then we'll be back with your story. If you're joining us, this is Hope FM, where you listen and live. Thank you for your time. I pray that the Lord will minister to you in one way or another. Thank you for your comments and questions, if any. I'll be getting to them in just a few moments. Please stay with us.
Hope FM, broadcasting on 93.3 Nairobi, 93.9 Western